Hi, and welcome to the Full Throttle Deep Drive series on UMC's Full Track. UMC stands for Utah Motorsports Campus. Some old timers still call it Larry Miller or Miller Motorsports. We're going to call it UMC because that's what it's called. Today we'll be focusing on the full track as well. And in this deep drive series, like all of our deep drives, Brian's going to take you through a ton of nuances that really make a difference, more than just the line or braking or camber. He's going to talk to you about surface changes and curbs and banking, when to hit curbs, when not to, when to early apex, when not to. So let's start with a few basics about UMC. We have 4 configurations. We have the full, the outer, the west, and the east. Today, we're going to be talking about the full track. So a lot of things to know about this. Number 1, always counterclockwise. We have 23 turns in the full track. That is a lot of turns to memorize. It's about 4.5 miles long, and we do have some elevation changes here. It's really, really technical. Speaking of elevation, we are at elevation here. It's at 4,400 feet or so. So your car is going to perform differently than it would in the desert at a California track or something like that. And it's got a really long straightaway, about 3/4 of a mile for a straightaway. So you can get zooming down that track pretty darn fast. Couple of other things that we don't want to forget. We do have the optimal line series as well for this particular configuration at UMC. And you can get personalized coaching from Brian for absolutely any track. So, all right, let's let Brian do his magic with the deep drive for UMC's full track.
Let's start our deep drive overview of Utah Motorsports Campus with a track map. I like to break a track up into 3 segments for ease of memorability. Given that this track is such a beast with 23 corners, I think it makes sense to not create too much cognitive load for yourself and try to learn this all in one chunk. I'd recommend trying to master turns 1 through 6 because they're identical if you ever come back and drive the outer loop or the west track. So nailing those and getting real comfortable will go a long way towards setting up success for Sector 2 and Sector 3. I like to think of Sector 2 as ending between turn 14 and 15. I think that's a fairly natural place to divide the track into the 2/3 mark, and then you can finish off the track with the last third. We're going to be going through each of these corners in depth, including the camber and the banking and the curbs and the gators. So let's get right into it without further ado. Starting with a full lap of UMC Full Track, you're looking out the windshield of a Porsche Spec Boxster. This car makes a whopping 200 horsepower, yet it can hustle around the track pretty well. I think it makes sense to look at the entire track on one hot lap. I'd recommend slowing the video down for this lap to take note of surface variations, landmarks if you can find any in the desert. You can see some snow-capped mountains in the background, which are beautiful. Find the corner worker stations, the brake marker pointers, the 3-2-1s, and also try to look for camber changes in the track, the banking, as well as when we run over curbs and when we don't. After we do this hot lap in the Boxster, which does around a 3-minute, 18-second lap, we'll dive into a deep dive in a Porsche GT4 Clubsport where we annotate and really get granular with this full track detail tour. Let's get started. You can pretty much, there's the flag worker with the green flag on the qualifying session. Very long straightaway, 3/4 of a mile. In this car, that takes forever. It only gets up to around 125 miles per hour, 122. So as you can see, corner 1 here, exiting all the way to the track. We're going to get back to the left to prepare for corner 2. We're going to track all the way out, but then hustle back to the right to prepare for corner 3, which is the most important corner on the track. I'll tell you why later. You exit all the way out, and this is almost a straight line all the way down. That was corner 4, headed to turn 5, which is called the Black Rock Hairpin. This is one of the slowest corners on the track. It's a tight hairpin, but it opens up a lot on the exit, so you really let the car go to full throttle here and track all the way out. Then we prepare for the next corner here, 6, which is a nasty right-hander that's pretty slow as well. Coming into now the hardest series of corners, in my view, these are the Devils, the Diablos. It's a triple apex. You take advantage of that one, track out, ignore the second apex there, clip the third, and track all the way out. Now we're preparing for turn 8, which is a nice fast right-hand sweeper. Track all the way out to the left, preparing for turn 9. After 9, there's a very long straightaway, so you have to get a quick exit here. We'll track all the way out to those rumble strips. Turn 10 is coming up on the right here. It's a kink. You can pretty much ignore that one and stay mid-track because you're preparing for turn 11, which is the fastest track on the corner. A right-hand sweeper here. Full throttle. Here's 12, which is a pretty tight left, which sets up for 13, which is a hairpin corner. Very slow corner. Track out all the way. And now I'm going to focus on setting you up for the exit of that corner for this next double apex left, which is tricky. You want to stay tight here because there's more traction on the inside. Track all the way out on the exit. And now we're approaching a series of corners called the Attitudes. These are a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot of curb on the first turn. You're going to get a lot of curb on the second turn. And you can kiss the curb or use it on the third. Those are the 3 Attitudes. Those are fun. And we track all the way out there. Preparing for the last few corners here. That one's super fast. Track all the way out. And then you can see we're coming into a braking zone here. This is a tight left. I want to carry as much speed as possible here and track all the way out past the candy stripes on the right. That's pretty unique. And then we're setting up for really slow corner wind up before we get to the final corner, release, corner 23. Track all the way out. And here we go again. Deja vu. Let's get started with the tutorial of Utah Motorsports Park Full Course. We'll be watching a qualifying session, and rather than show you turn 1 first, I'm going to show you turn 23 first. Why? Because when you're doing a hot lap on a time trial or a qualifying session, the most important thing to do is set up your straightaway speed over the start-finish line, the trap speed. So how do you maximize the speed at the start-finish line? Well, it all comes down to how fast do you exit the final corner leading on to the main straightaway. In this case, turn 23, which we're looking at on the screen. Juxtaposed against my in-car video, you'll notice the track map, which is zoomed in. So to accentuate our exit leading on to the main straightaway so we can go for a hot lap, we want a later apex than normal, and we want to make sure we rotate the car, opposite hands, rotate the car, and get to throttle as soon as possible, and then track out all the way on the exit so we can really maximize that top speed at the start-finish line. Here's turn 23 at full speed, preparing for a hot lap. Full throttle, light brake to rotate the car, get down in the banking, stay close to the curb, start feeding in the throttle, full throttle on the exit, track all the way out to the second candy stripe, full throttle, relax, check your gauges, prepare for a 3/4 of a mile straightaway. We're on the main straightaway. Again, very long. You could drink a cup of coffee on the way down the straightaway, 3/4 of a mile. We have a lot to cover if we're breaking down 23 corners, starting with turn 1, which is way far up the road. So grab a Red Bull, cup of coffee, adult beverage, whatever, and relax and get ready to have a deep dive breakdown starting with turn 1. We'll go full speed to start with and then back it up and break it down. So again, long straightaway, we're approaching start finish line, which is right up here. Boom, start finish, prepare for turn 1. Threshold braking. We're going to get a good rotation and then get down on this curb. It's banked. We're going to track out as we unwind the wheel, get to full throttle, and exit all the way to the candy strip. Now I'm backing this up, and we'll look at the approach for turn 1. First of all, you'll notice that they do have brake markers. There's the 1 marker. I'm backing it up so you can see that there's a 2 and a 3. My advice, depending on how your eyes move and how your brain processes information, in my view, vision is one of the most critical and often overlooked parts of performance driving. And I think it is so important that we need to spend some time focusing on optimal techniques. I think most people are taught to look for these braking points and determine the start of braking. I have learned from several other very high profile coaches to focus more on the end of braking zone and where you want to be turning the car in for the corner, and at what speed should you be when you start turning the car in. Most people, when they're new to a track, overslow the car. Obviously, they're a bit intimidated, they're nervous, it makes perfect sense. So you might start braking all the way back here at the 2, or at the 3. I think that it's important to, first of all, focus on where your vision is pointed. I'm looking, first of all, there's the flag worker. So on your outlap, be sure to wave to that person and acknowledge them. They work their butts off for you. There's a car up here on the road that's already in turn 1, probably down by the apex. I'm looking at that. And mainly I'm trying to look through the corner, meaning I want to predict where I end up on the exit of the corner and how I'm going to arrive there. So I'm sort of processing the exit, where the apex will be, and where I have to start turning in order to get to the apex. My eyes are never looking over here to the right because I'm going to be headed to the left. And your car follows your eyes. So that would be my advice. Scan left to right, constantly be looking back and forth real quick with your eyes. And that will help you process more information, and it reduces the cognitive load on your brain as well. So you can spend more energy driving and less energy trying to process what your car is doing. All right, so let's go through this. We're threshold braking, meaning we're maximum brake pressure, probably engaging ABS. And I've started the brakes. Looks like I'm a little bit past the 2. So we're approaching the 1. Back up and see exactly where we started braking. This is a fast car, by the way. We're cooking here. We're going about 148 when we start to brake. I'm a little before the 3, but again, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm looking through the corner, and I want to predict when am I going to get off the brakes. So we're going frame by frame. Maximum brake pressure. I realized right there, I overslowed the car just a tad, so I released my brake pressure to make a minor adjustment. And that's something that I will work on, and everyone should, is to start the braking so you have a consistent full pressure and then start gradually releasing. It shouldn't be a double brake like I'm doing here where you brake, release, brake, release. So I make a minor adjustment here, and then I continue back to full braking. And now I'm going to start my gradual release of the brake pedal as I start turning in. So here we go. We're starting to turn the wheel a tad. Smooth hands on the entry. Now, what do you see here that's unique? Number 1, we've got a curb. It's a long curb. It's a long corner. I like to get on this curb a little bit because your left front tire is going to be very light going through this relatively high speed 70 plus mile per hour corner. The corner also is fairly lengthy in duration. The other thing that's most exciting about this is the designer of this track did a wonderful job of making this track fun, fast, and flowing by creating banking in almost every corner. Some are exceptions, but this corner is no exception. It's the rule. There's banking to your benefit. So get in the banking. And that means it's a long corner. It has significant banking. You'll have a lot of traction. It's a fairly high speed corner. So it doesn't make sense to be super late on your apex way out here. And in fact, some people spin out because they go too late on their apex in this corner. They overslow the car, and then they try to crank the wheel to get down to the apex, and then they lift the throttle all these errors compound and then they spin off and they end up somewhere out here in the gravel. So I'd rather see you turn in smoothly, get down in this banking, kind of ride the curbing around a bit. And then when you get to the apex, you can start feeding in full throttle as the track starts to flatten out. And then you have a really nice, fast, smooth exit to the candy strips on the right. So let's watch this. So we're getting full throttle now, track all the way out to the candy strips. So let's back this up frame by frame and see how are we approaching the apex. Notice we're down here pretty early, earlier than you would typically see an instructor teach if you were looking at a classical driving line. That's again because we have this positive banking. We also have a very long, fairly gradual high-speed corner. So we're not going to be just coasting all the way down to the apex like we'd be in a really sharp corner that's short. This corner is really long and fast, and it's fairly gradual. It also sort of opens up on the exit. So we can carry a lot of speed through here. I'm going 75. By the way, this speed would be the same within 2 to 3 miles per hour, even in my slow car, which is a Spec Boxster, which only has 200 horsepower. This car has 425, and it runs on slicks. But even in the Spec Boxster, which runs on a dot tire, fairly skinny tire, by the way, we can carry approximately 72 to 73 miles per hour through this entire corner. So not a lot of difference. Also, the line isn't different. In the Spec Boxster, our turn-in is very similar. The line through this corner is very similar, and the exit of the corner is very similar. So I'd like to emphasize that a lot of people make so much emphasis on the driving line, the optimal line. The reality is if you drive the car at the limit, the line sort of takes care of itself. The line is the consequential benefit of driving the car at the limit. And I'll explain that in more detail as we go through this. So we're getting down to the apex and we're starting to gradually feed in throttle. And by this point, we're going to be full throttle approaching the track out. The key here is to use the entire track width on the exit. You've got a nice candy strip here. It's relatively smooth and you can run over it. I would suggest creeping up on this, move over 6 inches at a time. So start getting to throttle sooner on the exit until your car is pushed all the way out to the exit of this track. If you don't go all the way out to the exit, that means you're not getting to throttle soon enough and you're giving up precious speed. Be careful not to go 2 wheels off on this corner, however, because this gravel is fairly deep. And if you go off there, it often results in a spin. So I wouldn't suggest doing it. I would suggest kissing this track out curb initially and then creeping up maybe over to the middle of the track out candy stripe. Okay. So I'll back it up and show that one more time at full speed, and then we'll move on to corner 2. By the way, corner 1 is called Sunset Bend, and I'll annotate that. Backing up. One last time, full throttle, and then we'll go for turn 2. Fast entry, roll speed through here, start applying throttle, track all the way out to the exit. Great. Now we're done with turn 1. We're headed toward turn 2. That is called Dreamboat. Another very high speed corner. It's gradual and it opens up a little bit on the exit. It's a really fun corner. However, it's a little bit off camber. This is one of the exceptions to the rule of where the designer created positive banking to let you go faster. Turn 2 is a slight off camber corner, so you actually lose a little bit of traction on the entry to turn 2. But it's still a high speed corner, and the technique for entering turn 2 depends on your car. First and foremost, in the car I'm in, this is fast car. I'll call it a fast car, and then we'll talk about slow cars. And when I say slow car, I'm not disparaging the drivers of slow cars. I love driving a slow car fast. It's really, really fun. It's a Spec Boxster. Mazda Miata is another great example of a slow car, but you can hustle a Miata around this track. If you're in a slow car, you probably don't need to brake before the entrance to turn 2. You might brush the brake just a tad to set your speed and get the front wheels to bite just a little bit to get you to turn in better. In this car, I'll be carrying a lot of speed, so I actually lightly brake before I turn in to 2. It keeps the car flat, balanced, neutral. It doesn't upset or irritate the car. Allows me to have all 4 wheels on the pavement grabbing for traction. But again, the braking technique on a fast corner is usually lighter brakes, earlier, soft brakes. And you want the car to remain flat. So we'll watch this at full speed and then we'll break it down. Brush the brake, off, start feeding in throttle, track all the way out to the left. We will watch that again at full speed. So we're gonna move all the way back to the left side of the track at full throttle, lightly brush the brake pedal, turn in real smoothly to the entrance of turn 2, and then carry a lot of speed, kiss the curb on the right, and allow the car to be pushed all the way to the left as you feed in full throttle. So move to the left, brush the brake straight line, turn in, get the throttle real fast on the exit here, all the way out, and then you're setting up for turn 3. Can't hurt to show it one more time. All right, so we've done 2. Let's watch 3 at full speed and then we'll break it down. Turn 3 is called workout. And as you can see, it's a nice left-hander here that leads onto a very long section, which is crucial for this. In fact, I would suggest turn 3 might be the most important corner on the track because of this really long straightaway after it. I'll show you what I mean. The way I prioritize corners, by the way, I look at the entire track and I try to determine which ones are going to be the most challenging for people to complete in a quick way. Which ones are the scariest, fastest corners? Usually the fastest, scariest corner that precedes a long straightaway is going to be the most important corner to prioritize because people tend to overslow and then they compromise their speed all the way on the ensuing straightaway. So if you can get comfortable in high speed corners, especially high speed corners that lead onto long sections of straightaways like this one, your lap times are going to improve substantially. So turn 3, as we look at it here, it is a tight left-hand corner. We're starting the approach from the far right-hand side. Try not to run over the candy strips on the right preceding turn 3. They do get quite a bit bumpy. Plus you need traction to do a little bit of braking here if you're in a fast car. And in fact, if I'm even in a Boxster Spec, I will brush the brakes on the entry to turn 3 to settle the car down. So back it up. Here's turn 3, and as we exit turn 2, we're faced with the prospect of getting back over quickly to the right-hand side of the track because this left-hand turn is just so crucial. We want to make sure we're set up perfectly for that. So we want to get all the way back to the right, get our hands straight, get parallel with the candy stripe on the right-hand side. Don't run over it. I like to brush the brake pedal softly and early before we start turning in and get off the brakes. See how I'm coming off of them? And now my hands are turned very smoothly, gradually, and we're approaching a nice banked entry to turn 3. And this corner holds a lot of speed. We're going 86. Even in the Spec Boxster, it's like 83. So fast corner, regardless of the car you're in. Now, if you're on street tires in a street car, don't try to take this corner at 86 miles per hour. You'll fly off the track. You'll be going more like 75, maybe something like that in a street car on street tires. I'm on slicks. Now we approach the apex here, and it's a long corner, as most are here at UMC. So we want to get down in the banking, hold the traction, hold a lot of speed. You can kind of kiss the curb on the left. It's relatively flat and gradual, so it does not upset the car very much, particularly since the weight of the car is now transitioned to the right-hand side. So if we hit a minor curb on the left, it doesn't upset us that much. Full throttle is as early as you can humanly possibly get to the gas pedal. Again, we are trying to optimize the straight line speed on the exit of 3, carrying it all the way down past turn 4, which is not really a turn. It's just a suggestion. And turn 5 is a hairpin. So you want to go blasting down this and exit all the way out to the first candy stripe at the exit of 3. The first one is a little bump, 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 bump. Not too bad. It doesn't upset the car much. So you can run over this, especially if you've unwound your hands and they're pretty straight. If you get all the way over to the right-hand one, then things get a little nasty. It's a bump, bump, bump. It's very steep, abrasive, and a lot of people do go off, at the track of the exit of turn 3. And the gravel out here is pretty deep. So if you spin out, sometimes you might even get stuck out here. Little off-roading adventure. Try not to do that. Okay, so we've exited turn 3. And as we come out, we're going to see this thing. It's a kink. They call it turn 4. It's called Scream. It's a flat-out corner. I don't care what kind of car you're in. This is really not a turn. It's just an extension of the straightaway. You're going to be blasting through this at full throttle. It's not scary. Just make sure you make it as smooth as possible, and then you're going to track all the way out to the right-hand side, because this is a fairly lengthy straightaway, and you'll be going really fast at the end of this. And this car will be going, we hit 127 as our top speed. In a Spec Boxster, you can hit close to 120, I think. So still, you want to really accentuate the exit of turn 3 so you can maximize this straightaway. I'll let you see it one more time, and see how this goes. Again, this is the exit of turn 2. We're headed into 3. Get back to the right, light brush the brake, turn in smoothly, stay down in the banking, full throttle, exit all the way to the right. Disregard this turn, just keep it smooth. Exit all the way to the right, long straightaway, full throttle, and prepare for this next section, which is turn 5, called the Black Rock Hairpin. This is one of the gnarliest hairpins around because it has a very steep curb on the left. You'll see that as I run over it. It has a very peculiar exit, which most newbies really don't understand how to exit this corner. So I'm going to break down the pitfalls to avoid so you can maximize your exit speed on the Black Rock Hairpin. This is a very slow corner in the low 50s to mid 50s. So really we want to do a really late apex and make sure we get the car to pivot on the front wheels as we trail brake into it. So you get a lot of rotation early on the turn in. And then we want to try to get to full throttle on the exit as soon as we can. Those are our goals for a hairpin following a long straightaway. Let's watch it at speed. Full braking, trail brake in, a lot of rotation, late apex, full throttle, hold full throttle all the way on the exit. All right. Now I'm going to go frame by frame and talk you through it. Full throttle. You'll notice candy stripes on the right. You will notice a brake marker. As we're coming up on the right-hand side, there's a 2. Again, I don't look over there. Some people do. Personal preference. I think it's a disservice to spend a lot of time focusing on the beginning of braking point, because that's going to change depending on what speed you're approaching the corner. You need to get your brain recalibrated to try to predict what speed you need to enter the corner at and back it up from there. And where do you need to start braking so you can end the braking zone at the appropriate speed. That comes from experience and just doing a whole lot of laps. And then your brain will start to memorize automatically. It'll be an autonomic process. You won't have to think about the start of braking point. So for newbies, it can be beneficial to look at the start of braking point. And if you overslow the car, you'll know you can brake a little bit later. But for advanced drivers, the more advanced you become, I think the less you start to look the opposite direction that you're going to be turning the car. So I'm going to be looking more to the apex and all the way through it to where I want to be going rather than where I don't want to be going. So here we go. We're coming in hot, and right before the 2, that's where it looks like I'm threshold braking, maximum brake pressure. We'll be carrying that all the way down until we start turning in. And when we start turning in, we're going to be gradually reducing that brake pressure. That's called trail braking. And that'll keep a little bit more weight on the front nose of the car and allow the car to pivot on that axis on the front. It allows us to turn the car more quickly and carry more speed on the entry of the corner. So as you can see, I still have a little brake pressure, but now I have a lot of steering input, and I'm doing a late apex because this is a real tight corner. But the exit of this corner, as you look at the track map juxtaposed against this video, look at my line in red. We are going to be getting to full throttle about 2/3 of the way through this corner. You can see there's a cone there on the left. I don't look at cones. Cones move. Cones are ephemeral. Don't look at cones. A cone can get blown over and you would be completely lost in the next lap. So I would highly suggest eliminate from your mind the idea of looking at apex cones on tracks because they're never going to be the same the next time you come back. So as we come around this, I know it's about 2/3 of the way through the corner. I'm going to start feeding in the throttle, and I've done all my turning now. I'll start unwinding my hands, reducing my steering input as I increase my throttle input. There's an inverse relationship always between more throttle means less steering, more braking means less steering, more throttle means less steering. All these things are inverse, and you want your hands to straighten out as quickly as you can because the car always goes fastest in a straight line with the pedal to the floor. Now, as we exit, we're going to let the car drift all the way out. You'll see here that on the left, it looks like another corner, right? Another apex, but it's not. This is not a continuation of that corner. It's a false apex. You don't even need to consider that it exists because we're already at full throttle. We are being pushed to the edge of the track because of that, and we're carrying 64 miles per hour. If I slowed down and tried to hit that apex where the arrow is, I would have to lift off the throttle, turn the wheel more, and that would just postpone me carrying more speed down the straightaway. So this is not a true corner nor an apex, so you should ignore it. Focus on tracking out all the way. And here's the exit. We'll keep going out all the way to the candy stripe on the right. Okay? At full throttle. We'll back that up one more time. Full speed, talk you through it. Full throttle, straight line threshold braking. Start releasing the brake pedal as you turn hard into this corner. Get a little bit on the curb. Feed in the throttle. Exit, full throttle, track all the way up to the candy strip on the right. Got it? Good. Now we're approaching the next one. This is a really tricky section. It's turn 6, called right hook and knockout. It's a double apex corner. You can take it in one of 2 different ways, maybe 3 different ways. I'm going to teach you somewhat of a traditional entry to this corner, which focuses on exit speed. So the approach for this, by the way, this corner is a right-hander with very low traction. It's kind of an annoying corner because you want to be going faster than you are, and you keep kind of feeling for traction with the steering wheel and the throttle and modulating them, and it's just like kind of upsetting to think, gosh, I wish I could be going a little bit faster. But it's a low grip surface. It's a little bit off camber. There's a big curb on the right. When you exit this corner, it's a little sketchy if you hit the rumble strips on the left. So let's watch it again, and then I'll break it down. So you want to brake as hard as you can here. You're going to trail off the brakes as you rotate a lot. Get down a little bit on the curb and start feeding in full throttle as you track all the way out. So it's not overly complicated, but it's not a super fun corner. Let's put it that way. And I think I've heard that from like dozens of different people. So as we come in, first of all, we've exited turn 5, Black Rock. We're all the way to the right. We have to boogie over to the left to prepare for our entrance. You don't have to jump over to the left. I see a lot of people just quickly crank the wheel so they can set up for the next corner. You can wait and continue, the straightaway in a straight line. Because again, the car is the fastest in a straight line with the wheel perfectly straight. So anytime you turn the steering wheel to prepare for the next corner, what are you doing? You're slowing down the car. I like to postpone slowing down the car by extending any straightaway that I can. So I'm going to wait just a second here before I start getting over to the left, because that's slowing me down a little bit. And I'm going to approach this corner far left. I'm threshold braking. And as you can see, I'm kind of turning in a little bit early. The surface of the track on the way far outside gets marbly, and there is just less grip out there. I've tried it way out to the left. I've tried it way down on the inside. I've kind of found the sweet spot to be around the middle to 2/3 of the way on the left to initiate the turn in on this corner. Plus, it sort of cuts the distance of the corner if you can start a little bit more on the inside, because this is a fairly long corner. You're in it for several seconds, and it's also really slow. Look at our speeds. We're only in the 50s. So I want to gradually turn in. I'm rotating a lot. I'm feeding in a little bit of throttle here, holding about 55, 56. I like to run over this curb a little bit. It's fairly steep. Some people suggest that you don't hit this curb at all, including some professional drivers. If you're driving a Mazda Miata or a Spec Boxster, I would be all over this curb. Some of the older cars too, the front right tire will actually lift off the ground. It's not even on the ground. So you wouldn't even feel this curb if you run over it in a really soft car, So play with it, feel for traction. I think it all comes down to, if you hit a curb, does it upset the car? Yes or no? If it does, don't hit it. If it doesn't, and you have good car control and you can get down 2 more feet closer to the apex because you're using the whole track, then by all means try to use the curb and see if you can do it. Now I'm starting to feed in a little bit of throttle coming out of this corner. It's still really, really slow. And as we exit, we're full throttle. You can see the gradient on these rumble strips. It's pretty severe. And if you run over the left one here, the first one, it's perfectly fine. If you go all the way over to the second one on the left, it's a pretty bumpy ride. And you want to make sure your hands are almost perfectly straight if you get over to the second one, or you're going to fly off the track. So as you can see, my hands are straight and I'm already headed back a little bit to the right at full throttle. We'll back that up and watch it one more time at full speed. Then we will move on to the trickiest corners on the track. Demon, Devil, and Diablo. It's a triple apex corner, number 7, Demon, Devil, then Diablo. Here's, excuse me, turn 6 one last time. We're exiting. Now we have to sneak back over to the right to prepare for the Devils. I'm going to brake. I'm going to get in here and get all the way out to the right, rotate. There's another second apex and there's a third apex. We're going to track all the way out to the exit. This one's a lot to absorb. It's a very tricky corner. One of the most fun, tricky corners on any circuit I've been on. I really enjoy it. A lot of people struggle with this corner, so I will attempt to, demystify some of the trickiness of it. I also show you a unique technique I learned from a Formula One driver who wrote a book on how to enter a triple apex corner, or how to enter a corner like this that follows along a straightaway. And his advice, which I find very helpful, is to extend the straightaway by turning your hands a little bit at the end of the straightaway into the corner and then straightening your hands. So you turn in a little bit, straighten your hands, and then brake in a straight line. And because this corner ends up being slow and you rotate a lot after the first apex, you can benefit by extending this straightaway, then braking, then rotating the car, rather than the traditional technique, which would be stay all the way to the right, brake before the corner, and then kind of turn in. I've done it both ways, and you're welcome to try it any way that you feel is most appropriate. The technique I'll show you works for me, and the data suggests that this is a fast way to get through the corner. So I hope it helps you. We approach this. Now notice my hands are turning a little bit to the left. I'm still under full throttle. This is that technique. I'm going to call it extending the straightaway. Turning in, and you'll notice I'm going to start my brake pressure light, straighten my hands completely, and I'm angled in toward the first apex of this corner, which I'm going to ignore. I'm just going to try to brake and run over the first apex. You can see the line on the track map here. I'm just going to run over a little bit of that curb in a straight line. And I extended the straightaway by probably 40 feet by doing that. And now I'm off the brakes at the first apex. And now I'm going to start rotating the car. We're going uphill right here a little bit, so we pick up some traction. So this is great. We can give a little gas and still keep turning the car. As we track out a little bit to the right, the track starts to crest and flatten out. So we're going to actually lose traction coming up over this crest and lose more traction right here. You'll notice I had to lift the throttle a little bit, and we're approaching apex number 2, which I like to get close to and then let the car track out a little bit more to the right. And again, we lose traction here. Why? Because we start to go downhill. It's like a roller coaster. We're going to go up and down, and as we start to go down, and right when we do that, we crest, we get light, and we lose a little bit of traction. And then we're approaching apex number 3, and this is the one I like to get close to on the curb and start feeding in throttle as you hit the apex and get to full throttle. This corner right here, you pick up traction at the bottom of the hill. There's a little bit of a compression right here. So you do gain some grip so you can get to full throttle, and then you're going to track all the way out to the right. Most people don't track out to the right because they're trying to set up for the next corner. In my view, you should track out to the right, maximize your exit speed. We're going 84 miles per hour. I've gained on a lot of people here who overslow on the exit because they're so concerned about setting up for the next corner. I think for the next corner, you can kind of start mid-track and instead of getting all the way back over to the left, because this is a sequence of corners. We want to maximize the time, or minimize the time rather, through the entire section. We're not so concerned about our speed at any given point in time. All we care about is how fast can we get the car through this entire section in terms of our lap time. So everything we do is a bit of a compromise. I'm just showing you the way that I feel my data suggests this is the fastest way to get through this whole sequence of corners. Let's back it up. This is, again, such a tricky one. Have fun with it. Just explore it, learn it, digest it. And once you get really comfortable in this corner, you're going to be comfortable everywhere else. So again, straighten the hands, brake, get through that first one, track all the way out, hit the second one a little bit, lift a little bit here, full throttle coming out of it, track all the way to the right. Heading into the next corner. This is a hard, long right. This corner is called Indecision. And I think that's a pretty apropos name because people are indecisive about how they approach this corner. Again, I like to go at it from about mid-track. Let's look at this again. The exit of the Diablos. Go back to mid-track, brake real light, tuck it in on this curve. It's a long corner, but then the key with this is get to throttle as soon as possible. We're going to go back and we're going to look how fast are we getting to full throttle. And if you look at the line, you're arcing in and you're kind of making this a really long, prolonged turn in to get to a late apex, because the shape of the corner sort of allows you to ride the curb and it creates the apex for you. It's also banked, so you gain traction as you continue through the corner, and it allows you to get to full throttle way faster than you would normally do. It's really fun, I think, this corner, and I love getting to throttle as soon as I can and tracking out to the left. So let's see. We're braking, back it up a tiny bit. We're braking. Oops. Here we go. Okay. So we're starting about mid-track. I like to dab the brake just to set the speed and get the car to rotate a little bit more. I get off the brakes as I turn in gradually. I'm kind of riding this curb around because it's banked. I'm starting to feed in throttle. And look where we are in the track. We're not even close to getting around this corner, but we're already at full throttle. That is a very unique type of corner. Usually you don't get to throttle until you're at the apex, but in this one you're at full throttle way before the apex. And you can hold full throttle all the way through. See? Really cool, huh? Track out, and then you're setting up for the next corner. So I'll back it up. It's a very unique corner. It is full throttle. We'll take a breath because we're headed now to the back half of the track. We still have a lot of corners to go. This is track precision, corner 9. Let's watch it at full speed. This is also a crucial corner because it sets up a really long straightaway. So emphasizing exit speed is of paramount importance if you'd like a quick lap time. Full speed, here we come. We're exiting turn 8 indecision. We're going to be full left. We don't run over the candy strips on the left because it upsets the car in the braking zone. We want to be right next to them. And then we're going to proceed through a really nice right-hand sweeper, which leads onto a really long straightaway. So brake a little bit. We're going to try to run over the curb a little bit, maybe not. Track out to the first set of candy strips. And now you're full throttle for this entire section, which is a long straightaway. All right, so how do you approach turn 9 precision? We're coming full throttle. We're brushing the brakes. Actually, we're going to fairly hard brake pressure because we're still going 96 miles per hour. And as we start to turn in, we release the brake pressure smoothly, gradually. And we start to turn in gently. This corner has some banking and it has a nice curb on the right. Some cars can handle running over the curb on the right, some can't. This car in particular, it can handle it, but I have to lift the throttle a little bit, but it cuts so much distance that I think sometimes it can be worth it. Plus, if you're in a racing situation, if you can get all the way down on the inside of a curb, it allows you for easier passing sometimes. And it also teaches you how to drive different points on the track. So I'd recommend on your out lap or a slow lap, try running over these curbs on the track and see what it does to your car in a slow, safe setting. Because you may be in a circumstance someday where you're going to be running over those, whether you want to or not. In this case, I run over it. Now I have to lift a little bit because it does upset the car just a tad. But then I start feeding in the throttle again on the exit. Notice it's progressive, smooth increase of throttle as I start unwinding my hands, which means straightening my hands. Again, as you increase throttle, you reduce steering input. We exit at full throttle. We'll track out to the first candy strip of 2. The second of 2 gets really bumpy and chattery, so probably best to avoid it. And from this point on, we're headed full speed, full tilt boogie down through 10, which is a kink, and headed into the fastest corner on the track, which is called faster, turn 11. So one last time, we'll watch it at full speed, and then we'll move on to turn 10 and 11. Brake, turn gently, carry speed smoothly, start feeding in the throttle progressively, track all the way out to the first candy stripe, and hold full throttle all the way through this section. So we've exited turn 9 precision. We're headed toward what's not a turn. It's called turn 10, entitled fast. And then the real corner follows that, called faster. Let's watch the entire sequence of fast and faster, and then we'll break it down. There's fast, coming into faster now. And then this is turn 12. Gotcha. Let's go back. So we've just exited turn 9. We're full throttle. Turn 10 is a right-hand corner, but it's really just an extension of the straightaway. So I like to sort of try to straighten this whole section out and head for the left side of the track after this corner we're in right now, which is 10. It's kind of a kink. We want to be all the way to the left, though, to set up for turn 11, which is called faster. So you'll notice that I'm going to sneak over. Watch that again, and I'll slow it down. So full throttle. Try to straighten this first section out. You don't need to get all the way to the right. Prepare for this next corner by getting all the way to the left. Now this corner here, 11, faster. This is the fastest track on the course by far. If you can figure out how to carry speed through turn 11 faster, you will gain on your rivals. You will pick up, sometimes people can pick up a full second just on this one section, maybe 2 seconds if you're really scared of fast corners. These are my favorite types of corners because this really separates people. It really separates the pack. I mean, if you can get comfortable at high speeds, turning in with very little braking, carry that speed all the way through a corner and set up a safe braking zone for the next corner, then you're going to really come out ahead. So you'll notice I'm already going 100. I'm going 110 miles per hour, and as we go through this, we're going to minimum speeds about 105. So how do you do it? Well, you are going to essentially brake very light in a fast car. Now in a slow car, you can just lift before turn 11, but I'm in a fast car, and relatively speaking, so I use a light brake right there and off the brakes very quickly, and then I'm back to full throttle through that corner. Okay, so as you can see, this is the entry. I'm already preparing to turn into turn 11. I'm all the way to the left of the track. I've hit pretty decent brake pressure here because I want to slow the car down before I turn in. I'm doing some medium braking, but it doesn't last very long. I want that car to remain really flat and not get upset because I want as much traction as I can get on all 4 of those tires. So I release the brake pressure gradually. The car is nice and balanced. And then I'm going to turn in and start feeding in the throttle and see how much speed I can carry through this high-speed right-hand sweeper. It doesn't require a super late apex. If you look at the track map over here, you can sort of do a mid-apex on this and just carry so much speed. It's also banked to your benefit. Again, another 3 or 4 degree banking. So you will have more traction through this corner than you think. And again, it's a very, very fast corner. So creep up on it. I would recommend, getting your speed set before you turn the steering wheel. Try to approach this corner and incrementally increase your speed by 2 or 3 miles per hour as you get more comfortable with the track. And as you exit this corner, that's where I'm going to maybe give you a little bit different technique than other people will. So let's watch going through the corner and then we'll talk about the exit. So again, now we're full throttle, and here's the approach to corner 12. Gotcha. You may have noticed something that if you were doing some introductory driving HPDE type stuff, then you would be taught always, before you come to a corner, if this is corner, we're looking at now corner 12, that's straight ahead. Second. I'll go frame by frame. Ordinarily, your instructors would teach you to be all the way to the right before you turn in. The problem with that is we have just come through an extraordinarily high speed corner, and it's pushing us out pretty far to the left. If I try to get back all the way over to the right, I'll be compromising so much speed. I'll have to slow the car down so much And I don't want to do that because I want to carry that speed. It's almost 111 miles per hour accentuated through this short little straightaway is more advantageous than getting back all the way over to the right and having to crank the steering wheel again, getting over there and then applying really hard brake pressure when you would be turning the steering wheel. So my approach is stay about in the middle of the track on the exit, brake, absolute threshold braking, but in a straight line. See my hands? They're straight. And I'm going to get the car slowed down here from about mid-track, and then I'll turn into gotcha. And same thing on the exit of gotcha. We're going to use a similar technique where we're not going to get back all the way over to the left on the exit of gotcha because we want to carry speed. It's about 80 miles per hour through here, I believe. Full throttle on the exit. Now, we just exited turn 12. I'll show it one more time all the way through the sequence just so you can see it at speed. Again, we're going on the exit of turn 9. It's fast, full throttle, light brakes before we turn in, off the brakes, carry speed, burst to full throttle, brake, medium track, off the brakes, carry speed, full throttle for a little burst, and then, whoa, what do we have here? Well, now we're approaching turn 13. It's got a ridiculous name. It's called Maybe You'll Make It. Reality is a lot of people come through turn 12 like I just did, and some of them exit too quickly on 12 and it gets slippery out here to the right. There's a lot of gravel. You'll see people spin out here fairly routinely. So again, creep up on that speed. I'm going 79 right here. You can probably carry a little bit more than that. I overslowed the car just a little bit, but going off here is, it's a fun ride. You'll be spinning out and sliding for quite a ways. So try to avoid that. So now we're coming into 13. This one's unique in that it's kind of a hairpin. It's got a huge curb on the right. There's a flag station here, so be sure to wave on your outlap. They will be seeing a lot of action at this corner. There's a lot of people that try to do some passing if you're doing racing here. A lot of people, again, come way too far to the left to set up turn 13. They have to turn the wheel all the way back to get to the left by that cone over here is what they're looking for. You don't need to do that. You're going to be slowing the car down to very slow speeds in the 50 to 55, 60 mile per hour range through this corner. So it's more beneficial to carry as much speed as you can. Get this car slowed down. I'm on threshold braking right here. And I like to run over this entire curb system on the right-hander. It's a fairly steep, tall curb, maybe 3 inches tall, but it's quite wide. And I find that if I run my right tires over that curb, it doesn't upset my car, and I'm able to kind of shave quite a bit of distance off this corner. So let's watch this a couple times at speed. See, I'm on the curb, all the way on it, almost in the gravel, full throttle. Back it up. This is my exit for turn 12, and then you'll see me get in the middle of the track, threshold brake, ride the curb all the way around. About 2/3 of the way through the corner, we're going to get to full throttle, and we're going to have a really good solid exit and track all the way out. Again, mid-track, full brake, get on the curb. I like to full throttle at 2/3 of the way through, track all the way out to the left. Hope that makes sense. That was 13, maybe you'll make it. Now we're all the way on the left, as we should be. If you ride over that candy stripe on the left, it is a chatter bump. Perfectly fine to run over that. A lot of people really try to avoid that. I'm really comfortable on pavement changes, and I would suggest on your outlap, or just if you're ever just out there real slow and it's safe, run over these curbs and just experiment with how they feel. See what happens to your car when you run over, because you might get in a circumstance where you track out too far someday and you're going to hit those. If you panic, you might go off the track. You need to get comfortable knowing the limits of the track surface, because we want to ultimately use every inch of the width of the track. The saying goes, you paid for the track, so use it, all of it. If you use the entire width of the track, it reduces the radius of your corners. It allows you to use less steering input. It makes for a smoother entry to the corner, and it allows you to get to throttle sooner. And of course, if you track out all the way, you can get to throttle much sooner if you're using all the track on the exit. So that's a huge theme of mine, and so many people just continually, that when I watch their videos, really don't use the whole track, and that's probably one of the biggest detriments to their lap times. All right, this one is called Satisfaction, turn 14. We just went through it. It's a fairly high speed corner, 75, 80-ish miles per hour. I like to brush the brakes very gently early and then turn in. This again to me is more of a mid apex because it does have banking to your benefit. If you get down along the curb, it's fairly well angled. You will get more traction just because of the banking, and you can ride that around and get to full throttle relatively quickly, probably about 2/3 of the way through the corner. Some people do take a later apex on this and rotate the car more on the entry, which would sacrifice your entry speed and make the distance just a little bit longer. So play with it. I found that I can get the car around the track pretty quickly by, turning in and doing sort of a mid apex, using the banking so I have a lot of traction, carry a lot of speed on the entry and mid corner, get to throttle as soon as I can. And the key on this one though is don't be afraid to track out all the way. So watch me, I almost hit the curb here on the right, but watch how far we track out on the left here. Boom. This candy stripe is one of the only ones I'm aware of on the track that has 3 layers. You can see the distinct, I guess it's sort of how they laid this down. You've got about I would guesstimate it's about 14 inches wide on the first section, then another 14 inches, then another 14 inches. So we want to use at least the first layer. We want to probably use the second layer. You don't want to get onto the third layer. The bumps become progressively more severe, the chatter bumps. And they did that deliberately so you don't go out there. But obviously layer 1 is perfectly fine. It goes do, 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 do. Layer 2 goes boom, 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 boom. And layer 3, don't go there. It's really rough. But you can definitely go to level 1 and 2. I see so many people avoid the track out here. Big mistake. Get to throttle, get out here and get on at least level 1, and your exit speeds will be faster coming out of Satisfaction. And then you've got a nice little straightaway here. And after we get to the end of the straightaway, we're going to move all the way back to the right to prepare for this next corner. So we'll back it up, see the whole thing again, preparing for the next corner, 15, called Agony. Here's 14, full throttle, track out. Now gently make your way back over to the right, and we're going to prepare for 15, Agony. This is a double apex corner. It's slippery. We want to get to full throttle on the exit and use again the whole track on the exit of this corner. You'll see how far over I am. 3 layers again of candy stripes. On this one, I like to use all 3 of them. It's not very rough. If it's your first time on the track, you'll think it's really rough. But after you drive on this slowly on your out lap, or just take it slow one lap and try it out, you'll realize it doesn't really upset the car that much, especially if you've got your hands straight. And you can see here I'm at full throttle driving pretty much on level 2 and maybe even a little bit of level 3 of the candy stripe. So I've tracked out all the way. I've used the entire surface of the track, which will let me be faster. Now, this track entrance is a little bit debatable. There are 2 techniques, I would say. One is a traditional technique taught in HPDE or time trial. There is another technique used more in racecraft and the racing line, and it's a little bit more of a defensive, protective line to prevent people from diving down and passing you. I prefer that line, and that's what I drive. What I try to do on this is extend the straightaway as much as I can. So if you'll notice, I will turn the wheel a little bit before I hit the brakes. Watch my hands up here and watch how I turn the wheel, and then you're going to see the brakes light up. It's fairly quick. Might be hard to spot in the video because it all happens so quickly, but that's my technique, is angle the car a little bit in to the entrance and then straighten my hands so I'm going in a straight line, and then I brake really deep into the corner. So I've essentially just extended the straightaway by maybe 20 feet by doing this. And then you get off the brakes. You can rotate. This track surface is a bit banked. It has a less traction than most of the other corners. I do find that if you get especially a little bit wide on this corner, that there are marbles and the surface degrades, it gets loose, and I see a lot of people slide all over the place. And that's why I'm hugging the inside of this corner a bit more than you would expect if you were just looking at the track from above, from a satellite view. This isn't like the traditional line that would be optimal, but I'm basing my line on the track surface, the traction available. And what I've discovered is that there seems to be more traction if I stay a little bit more on the inside of this corner and use it as a double apex. So I've already gone through the first apex. Now I'm approaching the second apex. And this is one where I think you can run over the curb a little bit on the left side here. Boom, hit the curb a tiny bit, and then track all the way out. There's another nuance here I'd like to point out on the exit. This again is called agony. You can see I'm exiting, and look what's happening. Does it look like we're going flat, downhill, or uphill? Well, to me, I can tell you that we are just now starting to go up a hill. Not much elevation change, but enough that you'll feel this compression right where the nose of the car is. You will feel the front tires get more grip suddenly, and then the rear tires will hook up more as well. So you can get to throttle sooner than you think as opposed to if this track was perfectly flat. You'd have to wait a little bit longer to get to full throttle, but because we start going up this slight hill, we can get to throttle sooner and carry more speed on the exit. Uphill, uphill, then it flattens out. So as you flatten and you come up the hill and crest it, now we're kind of on more of a flat track. You're going to lose traction, right? It's kind of like coming over a little hill. So you have to prepare for that. That's why I like to get all my turning done, track all the way out, get on these 3 candy stripes, have my hands, straight pretty much. You can see I'm almost finished unwinding, and we're at full throttle. So now we'll back this up. I'm going to show you the whole turn again because I've given you a lot of information to digest. All right. Hopefully that is helpful. Now, we are approaching something called the attitudes. It's a left, followed by a right, followed by a left downhill. It's a total blast. It's a super fun section. Very challenging section. A lot of curves to look at here, and you have to be careful because these curbs can upset your car a lot. So let's back it up and look at our approach to the attitudes. First of all, we're already positioned properly on the exit for the entrance to this corner because we're all the way to the right side. So pretty easy for the setup. We're going to go all the way down here and apply pretty hard braking. The entrance to the attitudes in most cars is going to be right around 60 miles per hour. Let's say 58 to 65 miles per hour. That's whether you're in like a momentum car, a Miata, Spec Boxster, something like that, a Nissan 300Z, something like that. And if you're in like a super fast race car, like a Porsche Cup 991.2 Cup car, you'll probably be able to go in there around 70 miles per hour on the first attitude. So we're going to brake hard. We're going to turn in, and the first thing you'll notice is the track is banked a little bit to your benefit. So I like to get in there a little early. A lot of people super late apex this. I don't think that's as fast because they're not taking advantage of the beneficial camber of the track. See how it's sloped down to the left? which gives you more traction. If I was way out here to the right and did a late apex, the track's way flatter out here, plus there are marbles. So I do see people slide a lot more if they do a really late apex on the first entrance to the attitude. Also, you can run over this first curb. I'm all over this curb. Some people avoid it. It depends on your car setup and your dampers and your springs and all that good stuff. For me, I like to get on this curb, so I cut the distance. I also then want to be all the way left to set up the next corner, which is a hard right. So stay pretty far left, and then the next one is even more curb, and then there's curb on that corner, the final attitude. Let's watch the whole section, and then I'll break down the first, second, and third attitude. All right, entrance, pretty quick. Stay to the left, no brakes. Over that one, track out all the way on the exit. See how far out we are on the exit there? All right, so what's our approach on attitude number 2? It's fun. So I'll go slow-mo. We're entering attitude number 1. We're on the curb. You can run over that one. It doesn't upset your car much. You can't be at a lot of throttle though. You see how my throttle is barely maintenance, barely. Now I'm going to give a little burst of throttle, more. And on this one, you're barely lifting the throttle and you're turning in early to get on this curb. This is attitude number 2, turn 17 technically. Now watch the car bounce a little bit. It gets upset. So you have to lift the throttle when you go over the curb. See how the throttle went down a bit? But then as soon as you start coming off of the curb, you can get back to full throttle. And now we're approaching this final bend on the left. Some people don't like to run over this one. I do. I've seen some of the guys in Spec Z. They're all over this curb. They're like 2 wheels off in the dirt on the left. Same with Miatas, same with Spec Boxsters. Those are all fairly softly sprung cars. They're pretty compliant over the bumps. If you have a real skittish car, you might bounce a bit more on a curb, so you might want to just kiss the curb instead of running over it. Experiment with it. I like to run over it because it cuts the distance. Plus, now I'm going to experiment more though, because if I kiss the curb, I might be able to hold a bit more traction because it's not upsetting the car. So again, you might be able to shave a tenth by trying slightly different techniques here. But now I'm positioned quite well because I'm on the apex. I'm starting to get to full throttle. I'm using the whole track on the inside, and now I'm going to use the entire track on my exit. And this one can be a bit scary. People will go off here. So you want to track out. This one, when you hit it, goes bump, 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 bump. If you go all the way out to the second one, then it's really pronounced bump, 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 bump. Problem with that is you run out of track real quick if you're all the way out on the second one. See how they don't have any more rumble strips past this point. So you probably don't want to be all the way out there to the right. I like to run over the first set of rumble strips and then gently nudge my way so I'm on the first track, first rumble strip. And I just ride that. I'm still at full throttle. I'm not losing any time by staying out here, and then gently turn the wheel to the left and set up for this next corner here, which is the infamous Tooele turn. Tooele is the town right adjacent to the track, just FYI. And Tooele turn is a really fun corner. I would say the tendency for most people, let's watch this, is to overslow their car and not track out all the way on the exit. So we're finding some common themes here on this track. I like to haul the mail through this thing and use that curb and track it all the way out. So this guy is unique. Let's look at the approach. So you threshold, whoops. So we're approaching the corner, go at full throttle. You can see the brake marker over here is the 2. Again, I disregard those, but if you'd like to use a reference point, we're going to start braking probably right around the 2, quite a bit after the 2. We're at full full braking there, threshold braking, which is a little bit early. Notice the flag worker over there watching all the action. And I'm full brakes, still 101 miles per hour. We're going to start trailing off the brake pressure as we turn in. And on this one, if you run over this curb early, like right here, it's a very gradual slope. It's a nice, gentle ramp almost that you can run up, and then you can run over the whole curb. If you enter it like a late apex and kind of hit it in this angle, something like this, I find the curb be much steeper slope, and it will upset your car more. So you kind of have to decide. You either run it over early and ride the curb around the corner, or probably don't hit it at all. Just get really, really close to it, or your car's going to get really upset. So this one has high consequences, because if you hit it and you come in and over and you bounce your car a little bit by bouncing off of this curb, it can throw you off on the exit of the track. And this exit is sketchy because it does have rumble strips, and you want to get out there on those and track all the way out. See this? Boom. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of rumble strips. That's got to be a record. You can see most of the people are staying on the first rumble strip. Look at the black from the tires. I like to go out to number 3, not 4. I've gone out to 4. I've actually gone off the track here. Not a horrible experience, but not a good one either. So we come in around the corner. I get on the curb early. I'm getting into full throttle now. I'm letting my hands unwind. See the steering wheel's unwinding. And I'm going all the way out to about the 3rd rumble strip. All right. And then we've got a nice little straightaway here. So one last time, just to make sure you got it. We're coming into that corner, Tooele turn. Brake hard, turn in on the curb early, get to full throttle, track all the way out, unwind the wheel. All right, full throttle. This next corner is fun. Let you watch it first. Track all the way out here. All right. This one is super tricky, and I use a technique that I think is really different and fast, and it uses the entire exit of this corner. I would say 90% of people do not do what I'm about to do. They do not track out all the way on the exit of this corner. And I'm going to show you why I think that that you should. This is my opinion, and my data backs it up a little bit from Spec Boxster racing, where you can really gain on people on the exit of this corner if you do it right. So first of all, we're going to do threshold braking on the entrance. By the way, this corner is called Clubhouse. Okay, on the entrance, it is banked to your benefit. I like to get in early and hug the entrance of this corner because I love to be in a highly banked corner. There's also a lot of grip on the entrance of this corner. The other thing is I'm going to let my car get thrown out on the exit all the way past the candy strips to a run out area that is part of the track surface. But 90 to 95% of people do not go over these rumble strips. Watch how I not only use them. Here's the exit. Look at all the track out there on the right. There's like another 40 feet of track. Even though they put the rumble strips here, you can use all of it. It's legal, to the best of my knowledge. No, I think it is. So watch. We're hitting the first rumble, second, and I'm all the way outside of them on what is to me an extension of the track surface. There's a lot of traction there. Most people don't go out there. You'd be all alone if you do this. And the reason people don't go out there is because they're setting up for the next corner, which is this gnarly right-hand, horribly boring, slow corner that is called windup. Now, most people think, okay, well, this is a super sharp corner, and they want to be all the way to the left to prepare for a late apex. The reality is, to me, it doesn't make a darn bit of difference, because you are going to be going through this corner at 50 to 55 miles per hour. And then right after you go through it, you're going to be setting up for release, which is the final corner, which leads onto one of the longest straights in the United States of America. So what we're going to do here is give up this corner and not pay as much attention to the priority of it. We're going to make sure we're set up for the final corner on the track, which is called release, turn 23. So my technique on this is just, I kind of ride the inside rail. Again, I'm going 56 miles per hour. If people do a super late apex on this corner, they've increased the distance. They've had to move their car all the way back over to the left. So a bunch of people I've seen, I'd say 90%, first of all, they never track out this far. They probably track out to like here, and then they jam their car all the way over to the left to slow down for like a 50 mile per hour corner. And they probably increase the distance of that by 75 feet. I say, use the whole track, prioritize the exit speed, stay at full throttle as long as you can, hammer the brakes as late as you can on this very slow corner, and then just tuck it in and ride it out. Trail braking here, turning in 56, 55, 54, 55. Just sort of ride that rail around. It's banked down here as well, so you do get good traction if you're down here. If you're off to the left, you are in the marbles and you can slide a little bit. I've seen a lot of people almost spin out by not staying down here low. And then here we come around this slow corner, and what do we see? We've got the final corner in front of us. This is called release. And now we're on the main straightaway. So let's watch that section and then we'll watch release. Here's my exit of turn 22 windup. I'm sorry, entrance of windup, headed into the final corner, turn 23. Notice I'm mid-track, light brake to rotate the car, ride the rail, it's banked, exit all the way out. 90% of people, again, do not use the rumble strips on the right here. I have no idea why. Get to throttle, full throttle, and then use the rumble strips. Yep, so we're gonna just brake lightly, turn in, get down in the banking, start feeding in the throttle, full throttle, exit, and track all the way out. One last time.